It's our last week of St. Nicholas Cage, the Christmas movies of Nick Cage. And we love us some Nick Cage, but who can out Nick Cage? I don't know. How about John Lovitz and Dana Carvey? I mean, maybe. Welcome to Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Half-Ass Movie Podcast, a show where we put together a half-ass theme as an excuse to watch movies. My name is Adam, and joining me today, he's hovering around like some bad news, Sweet Sean's Kovacs from the internet.
Just because you can do a pretty good Mickey Rourke impression doesn't mean you should do a pretty good Mickey Rourke impression for 2 hours.
Yeah, shit, all the time. All the time. Why not all the time? Oh man! Hopefully we are we are not as crazy and loose as Dana Carvey is this week, everybody, because it is the last movie of the December St. Nicholas Cage, the Christmas movies of Nick Cage. This is one. I'm going to be honest with you. Today's movie, of course, is Trapped in Paradise from 1990. Is it 1994. I remember seeing commercials for this so much I felt like I had seen this movie.
But you hadn't seen it.
Maybe. I don't know. But it's one of those things that, like, I still, having watched it, I just go like, I feel like I've seen everything in here. Like, maybe I've watched it before. But again, this was one of those things I just remember that commercial being on so much. I'm like 12 and 94, so you're pretty cognizant of all that sort of stuff going on at this point. I just remember it nonstop, just like from Nick Cage's lines to all of John Lovitz's lines and whatnot. It's astounding how much of this like I knew, but I can't say if and I saw this. I've seen it once, but I've seen the trailer so many times it feels like I've seen this movie a dozen times.
Well, you've seen a movie before, so it feels like you've seen this movie before.
Well, that is true, because this movie is a lot of movies that you've already movied previously, I would say.
Right. There's so much other movies in this movie that it's like, oh, I've seen this movie before, but have I? I don't know.
We'll get into all that good stuff. Before we do, though, we do want to say a giant thank you to the people who support the show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, and behind-the-scenes stuff, everybody, because the YouTube channels, I'm blowing up. That seems like a large statement to make, but we're getting more subscribers. People are watching and stuff.
Well.
We're doing well. Thank you. That's a better term. It's a little, that puts it at the, I would say, the appropriate level. We're doing well, so I'm doing more videos and stuff and sharing some behind-the-scenes things and little whatnots that are going out there and stuff. So some of those people get to see stuff before everybody else does. So patreon.com/HMP, help out this here program. And if you can't do that, for heaven's sake, at least go over to that YouTube page, subscribe over there, because we're moving and shaking. We're around 3,000 new subscribers and stuff like that. People are booming. It's lovely. It's so nice. We're getting tons of comments and stuff like that, and I've got a lot of great video ideas and stuff coming on the way. 2025 is going to be a big one, and hopefully you guys can just click a button, man. Appreciate that.
Please, thank you.
And why don't you head on down to the iTunes there, man? Throw a little 5-star review on this bad boy. It's been a long time since we have seen some of them, and we know we got some new people. I want a new iTunes review to read. I yearn for it. That's all. Can a guy yearn just a little bit? That's all I need. Patreon.com/HMP. That is it. Let's get into it. Here is the IMDb plot line for Trapped in Paradise. As we know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Well, here we go. Residents of a friendly Pennsylvania town foil 3 brothers' plan to rob a bank on Christmas Eve. Yes, IMDb, but
no, that is not the plot of this movie at all.
Let's read, because I have a second one here from our friend Michael Sylvia, who I think is from British Columbia, based upon whatever email this is.
Okay.
He wrote in, Bill Frippo has managed to stay honest, but can't keep but can't help but be dragged into things by his lecherous brothers. This is a cold read. I'm sorry. The clever Dave and kleptomaniac Alvin. When the three find a bank so easy to rob that they can't resist, the only question is whether or not they can get out of town before the big snowstorm hits. While three brothers run around town with their stolen loot, they are besieged with the kindness of the townsfolk that might just set them on the path of righteousness. Despite my cold read that was terrible, and Michael did have a lot of misspellings that I did have to kind of correct here in the Word document and everything, it's a little bit more succinct.
It's far more succinct.
Sorry for the cold read, though.
So I have seen this movie before.
Real fast, just last little bit of housekeeping. Written and directed, well, kind of. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, by George Gallo, who wrote Wise Guys, Midnight Run, and after Trapped in Paradise, he wrote Michael Bay's Bad Boys, which adds up, and Double Take with Eddie Griffin and Orlando Jones, which Orlando Jones is still one of the best names in all of entertainment. It rolls Orlando Jones. You're like, damn, that's a badass name. Starring Nicolas Cage, John Lovitz, Dana Carvey, Richard Jenkins. Jenkins is in this bitch. Florence Stanley, or better known to me, Grandma on the Dinosaurs. Machen Akin, honey, she's sweet as hell, but I cannot pronounce that name. Jack Heller, Donald Moffat, and the late, great John Astin, man. There's a lot of great people in this movie. It looks fantastic. It's just, it is...
It is shot well.
Yes,
it is shot well. It doesn't look fantastic. Everything in this movie is ugly, but it's shot very well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's really what I meant, because when it comes to things like camera movements and stuff, this feels much more Die Hard and stuff like that.
Right.
Which this type of movie would not normally be, which is, I think, at least, you've shown a hand a little early, but that's one of the things I like about it, is that it's kind of shot differently and feels different than most any other kind of Christmas movie that you've come across. And while still kind of being directed somewhat like an action film, it's certainly not one.
One of the things that I want to bring up, because I know that we usually save this for the end. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I want to bring up is that the problem with this movie is that it needed to decide what style of movie it was going to be, and they never really landed on it, right? Mm-hmm. So you can either have almost like a big budget Hallmark movie, or you can do like a Saturday Night Live alumni kind of Christmas heist caper thing.
Yeah, if there would have been a third SNL cast member in this,
that's what I mean. I think that the problem is, if you've got Dana Carvey and you've got John Lovitz as two of the brothers, but the third brother is Nick Cage, you're doing it wrong. You need to have a different SNL alum as that third guy, if that's the type of movie you're going to make. Mm-hmm. And whether that's someone from the original cast or somebody from even that second cast that no one remembers, that's where you should go with it, instead of where they ended up. Because Nicolas Cage standing next to Lovitz and Carvey just looks wrong.
Yeah.
And the thing that everybody brings up about this movie is that they don't look like brothers. You don't for a second believe that these three men are brothers, because you just don't. No. They don't look alike. They don't speak alike. They don't act alike. There's nothing about them that is similar. And so you either have to make it where, even if you have something it's 94, so you can get Sandler, but he's a little too young to play the oldest brother.
Yeah, he couldn't do that one. That doesn't make sense there. Because I was thinking about kind of the same thing too. It's who do you kind of get? Because I went SNL, but I had that exact same thought. I'm if you get Sandler, he's too young at this point. He certainly could not 93. Not heavens no. He still looks like he's fucking 17.
Yeah, he does. He still looks like he's the same kid from Remote Control.
Yeah.
He's basically but you need somebody with enough juice that can put butts in seats. And I don't think that Nicolas Cage was there yet, quite honestly. In 94, he's not a gigantic superstar movie star at this point. He's a star for sure, but he's not the reason why you go to him.
He's literally 2 years away from it.
Right.
Like, because so once The Rock comes out, like that changes everything for Nick Cage. And so he's just on that precipice of blowing up. I forget what his other 94 film is, but he's got another one in there that's like, okay, that's a pretty decent little shot there. So like he's so damn close.
Yeah.
But not there yet. And he doesn't belong to this film, but like he's doing
if
weird
that's the way they're going.
Stuff. Yeah.
If that's the way they're going, he does not like if they're going to go with the SNL alum, then he is totally incorrect for this. And so like the tone is all over the place with this movie, as is the script, which is just crazy to me because Gallo he has the ability to write some great scripts. I mean, Midnight Run is just a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's one that people brings up as kind of one of those drum tight scripts there and everything that is, kind of the one to be measured by. It's like, hey, if you're doing this kind of stuff, this is the one to imitate over here.
And so for this movie to have more coincidences than a Stan Lee comic book, it's like it's just like rolling your eyes. Like before that scene even happens where the guy sees that they've fallen off the bridge in their car and he's like, hey, I'll take you to my uncle's house. It's like, well, obviously your uncle's going to be the guy who owns the bank. Yeah. Like that's just how dumb as dog dicks this script is. That's where they're going.
They almost like flash a card on the screen going, you know where this is going, right?
Yes, exactly, man. Exactly. And I don't hate this movie anymore like I did because it really broke my love of Dana Carvey at the time, because 94 Dana Carvey can do no wrong to me. And this was the movie where I was like, oh, Dana Carvey may not be a movie star because no one makes that choice for 2 hours. No one says, you know what, I am going to do this voice and make these faces for 2 hours. And the worst part of it is, man, is that he has that really great scene at the end of this movie where he decides that he's going to give the money back also. And that's like a real acting moment that he has. It's like, well, where was this guy the entire movie, man? This is the guy I wanted to see.
Here's the thing. And like, however you want to take it, listen, Dana Carvey's not listening to the show more than likely. I think he's somebody who's probably a better actor than he ever gets to be.
I think that he has a real problem being in his own skin in front of a camera. Dan Aykroyd has that problem as well. Like he would much rather play the most disgusting character you've ever seen in your life than play Dan Aykroyd in front of a camera. And I think Dana Carvey's the same way, to the point where every time he's on screen, he's doing like some dumb voice and making weird faces and making weird noises. And it's like, dude, just be a person. This is a movie. This isn't a 3-minute sketch. And that's one of the things that Siskel brought up during the Siskel and Ebert review that I watched for this, is that Siskel himself is like, look, he basically said, I like Nicolas Cage as an actor, but he has nothing to play with when the other two actors that he's playing against are TV actors who are used to sketches where it's done in 4 minutes. And so they can just walk away. And he's not wrong. Like I still say that Nicolas Cage shouldn't have been in this movie, but he's been given no favors that he's standing next to Lovitz and Carvey.
Yeah. That said, though, there's something about John Lovitz. You love to hate him. He's a smarmy bastard, and like that is like the role that he's constantly playing. But there's just, even in this movie, you love to hate him. Like he brings on that stupid Lovitz smile there and everything when he's I don't know. It's just there's something scummy about him, but I that's what I love about him.
He should never be the main character of any movie. Like when he shows up in something, it's great. Like think of like Bronson Pinchot in Beverly Hills Cop. He like that's the level of movie stardom that John Lovitz should have. Like, look, come in, you do your 2 days, you're going to kill, you're going to steal every scene you're in, and then you go home. But when you're forced to deal with that for 2 hours, because this movie, I think it's still going, I watched it this morning.
You're right.
But I think it's probably still going. This movie is about 151 minutes too long.
Oh,
I think the movie is 151 minutes, everybody. I think that I think he is great in small doses. I agree with you. I like him as a garnish. He's the Punisher of comedic actors.
Just keep him for a little bit.
I've been saying this for years and years that the Punisher should never be the main character of anything. He's just great to come in, have a sandwich and leave, you know?
Yeah, when he's in a Spider-Man book, when he's in a Daredevil book, like those are good stories.
Right.
But like, you know, a regular book, not always.
Right.
Actually, more often than not. But listen, he's fine enough. Like Carvey is going off the wall. He is just doing like they lock in. And my thought was initially when it starts, like, well, he can't keep this up the entire time. No, he most assuredly does.
Because he doesn't necessarily care. You know, it's about him doing his Mickey Rourke impression. It's not about making the movie work for 2 hours. It's about him having these little moments, like spitting out the everlasting gobstopper at the hearing.
Yeah,
you know, for their release. Like it's those kind of moments that Dana Carvey lives for. He's not thinking big picture with any of the work he's doing, and it shows. It shows in this movie. And I do have to say this too. You know, I know that the behind the scenes of this is that Gallo wasn't really directing them, and so Nick Cage kind of took over the directing duties of this movie. But they really needed somebody to be like, we need to try another take of this because this clearly didn't work. Like everything Dana Carvey is doing in this movie, let's dial it back by like 25%. Or Nicolas Cage has his crazy moments in this, like call me dad, you know, or the what me face moment in the car where he's yelling at Lovitz, and it's like, can we do another take of this, please? Like this movie has that over and over again, where it's clear that there's nobody with a defined vision of what this movie should be.
No, but at the same time too, from what I'm to understand, Nick Cage was also like kind of encouraging of this. They were like, from what I'm to understand, like the head honchos were coming down to be like, Dana, you are not doing this. This is not what you're doing. Cut that out. And Nicolas Cage was the one that goes, oh no, this is what we're doing.
Oh, I had never heard that.
The word is Nick Cage was the one who was just like, no, he's encouraging all of this this activity to actually happen and stuff. But Lovitz says, yeah, he just like, you know, the guy really didn't kind of seem to care, and like they all wanted to do something. So whatever kind of came out of it, I guess. But they said between those three and the DP, they all, you know, kind of just amalgamated together as best they could, you know, based upon, you know, obviously you can't change too much of the script and stuff, but they were like, oh, they didn't know his lines. It's like, no, they just didn't write stuff. And I don't know.
Right. You know,
real fast, because I want to touch on Carvey for just a quick moment here, because ultimately I wish they could, I think they could have done a lot of service to this, because, for lack of a better word, mental retardation is a subject in this movie.
Yeah, but it's not with him.
Yeah, exactly. But you have people with mental deficiencies that are just like, it's not that they're just being a joke of things, but it's like you could have done so much better with, and I'm not even talking about being preachy or anything, just dialing some stuff back. If you'd have dialed Dana Carvey's character back and just had him be a little bit more just kind of like you're questioning what his kind of thing is or whatever, you'd have so much more sympathy and empathy for this character who feels like he's probably being dragged along to all of this stuff and can't help his kleptomania or something like that. Just like endear us to the characters, but like they are all a-holes. And so you ultimately don't care about them at all. And you're just like, well, you know, sure, he's kind of a half innocent, but he's also a bit of a, you know, kind of a dick too.
Well, if you're right. Everybody in this movie is a prick, except for the guy who owns the bank. But what they should have done when it came to Carvey and Lovitz specifically is that if you're going to make them those big of pricks, at least make them good at the thing they do. Like they kind of touch on it a little bit that Carvey is good with the driving, even though his actions do not make him good at driving at all.
No.
Like, or his kleptomania. Like, he should be a fantastic. He should be fantastic at pickpocketing and stealing from stores and all that.
Instead of just the like it's so over the top, him stealing the pens and everything. But what if he was just, walking around to every person kind of like, oh, here's a brooch, here's a watch, here's, a little this and that, just kind of, grifting everybody real fast without people noticing and stuff. But instead we make a large, odd comedy bit out of it.
And that's what I mean. Like, if you're going to make them pricks, at least give us a reason to get behind these guys, like think of Ocean's 11. Like Ocean's 11, everybody's really great at their job, and and some of those people are pricks, but because they're so good at their job, you kind of let go, like the Scott Conn and Casey Affleck, where they're just constantly bickering at each other. That stuff is funny, but really what puts it over those characters over the top for me is that they are legitimately good at what they're doing. And so I think that if you make Carvey really good at pickpocketing and sleight of hand stuff, and you make Lovitz be able to talk his way out of any situation, because that's what everyone keeps saying he does, but he never actually does it in the movie.
I just talk myself into worse situations.
Right. He always makes things worse every time he starts lying. Like, make him great at it. And they don't do any of that in this. Just time and time again, the wrong choice keeps being made because everyone seems to forget that this movie is 7.5 hours long. This might be funny for this one scene, even though it's not.
Yeah.
But I can see when you're on set thinking, oh, this is really funny. Like, think of just how long it takes for Dana Carvey to steal the prize out of the Captain Crunch in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
That scene is like 1.5 minutes long. And it's like, why is the camera lingering on this man?
Okay. Of all the ones, okay, I don't know. There's, me. I'm a hack for some old, stupid, dumb, old school comedy crap, and that's certainly of that kind of like, hey, this is dumb. There's something about it I like, even though I hate it. Because I have the same feeling that you do. It's like, oh my God, why are we here so long? There's also a sick little part of me that kind of likes it. I don't know. I don't like admitting to it.
I found so much of this movie excruciating. Like, just the way that the characters are behaving, because no one is behaving like real people. Like, nothing of the situation, like the bank heist, which takes forever. And
it is funny because they get to the point. So we like, I do love how everyone is so stupid in this movie. And at least because this is what almost makes you think that the movie's going to start rolling, because when we get here, the whole idea of like, he gets his brothers out of jail here and everything, which again, I like the conceit. It's dumb. It's stupid movie enough, but it's great movie logic of like, hey, there's more people, and the people that were up for parole, we're just going to parole them, super early anyways. And the little trial of them being dumb, and like, there's no reason that these people should be out in society. That's fun. And then by the time that we pick them up and everything, the movie's moving so fast, And then we get to the point where we get to the bank. All they have to have is just the smallest inkling of hope that there be $250,000 there, which is not a lot, even in 1993 money. But that's what takes him. They turn it around, and again, you're going like, "Holy shit, this movie is really rocking and rolling here." How are we gonna? And then the movie goes on for another hour and a half.
Yeah,
and it's like, wow, does it just kind of drag out? And I'm not to say that there aren't some, there's funny moments, there's decent moments and stuff in it, but like, it's so much of it. You're just like, you could have taken this out. I don't know that we needed this in here, especially when we're rolling up on damn near 2 hours.
There's so many scenes that you just cut this. This is adding nothing. There's so much of that. It meanders this movie where there's just great swaths of time spent in places where you don't need to. And it right off the jump from this movie, I knew that they had a pacing problem because the first scene is that Nicolas Cage guy drops his wallet and he's going back and forth with himself, wondering whether or not he should return the wallet.
Mm-hmm.
That scene is way too long.
Oh yeah, it goes on, and you do feel like it's going to go somewhere, and it really doesn't. You get to the destination, and you're like, ugh.
And it's the first scene in the movie. Like, if you really want to show people the type of movie that you're trying to make here, start with the parole scene, because that's really what this movie is the parole scene, not Nicolas Cage going back and forth on whether he's a good person or not. That goes out the window real early in this movie, whether he's, a good person or not.
So like half a second, and just because it's the first time that it's crossed my mind. He has the worst car in the world, and we make a fun joke about it. Like you even see it in the trailer there and everything, where it's just like, oh, can you believe this burnt out car? That's mine. That's mine. It's funny enough. But how in the world does this guy work as a maitre d' or whatever, or no, none of that. He's higher than that. What is he? Restaurant manager or something, some shit like that?
Yeah, he's the manager.
He's the manager, and he drives that. What are you doing with your life? What's happening? There's something to add up there.
Well, it's one of those things where it's either we need this joke of he drives a really bad car, or we don't know how real people live.
Yeah, that person's making decent money. I don't know. Like that's a fancy restaurant,
right?
The 2 + 2 = 4, but like we're supposed to also believe that he really likes it, I guess, to a degree or something. I don't know, but why would you when you're driving around, a car from Sanford and Son?
I have a lot of like nitpicky issues with this, not just like giant, like gaping holes in the script, but also like small stuff too they get wrong.
Oh, can I tell you what my top one is? What are these accents? Where are these? Where's everyone supposed to be from? You can't pick out any of it. It's just like Nick Cage is trying to do something, but it's not working. Other people are occasionally throwing in some sort of weird accent, but none of it works.
Well, Dana Carvey.
We're not counting him. He doesn't count. But whatever Nick Cage is doing, whatever the love interest gal is doing. There's 2 or 3 more in there, but you're listening, you're just like, you guys have to have a dialect coach who's just like, listen, this is what you do, this is the Pennsylvania accent or some shit, and it's not good. I don't know what voice they're doing, but it's weird.
Well, they are doing Lovitz is doing, I can't remember where he's from. I want to say he's from Long Island maybe, but Cage is just doing his generic I'm from New York accent, which drives me crazy. People who aren't from the area always try their New York accent, and it's the most fakest sounding thing you've ever heard.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you who these people are, where they're supposed to be from, because it is very muddy.
One of my gigantic problems with like nitpicky problems I have is when they show up at their mom's house. Their mom's house is filthy for some reason. Like the woman put out all of these Christmas decorations for Christmas, and yes, they're ugly and blah ha ha, isn't that funny? And she has like outdated furniture, ha ha ha, isn't that funny? Mm-hmm. But the house is also filthy.
They have the carpet of a crack house,
and the cabinets are just like,
oh god, yeah, they're just disgusting.
It's almost like mud. It's on. It's like, what are you like? Who approved this?
You dipped your hands in gravy, and then you started opening up all of your cabinets, and you never bothered to wash them.
Like, this lady clearly like cares for her things. She's had that lamp that's a mid-century lamp in her living room for 40 years. Like, she clearly cares for it. So why is everything just disgusting?
You don't understand, Sean. Sense. She's poor. She's poor. These are what poor people are.
That's what brings me back to this. That's what brings me back to this again, is that it seems like Gallo might be completely and utterly out of touch with the way that regular people are.
Yeah, this middle class lady should be in squalor.
And it happens a few times. And this is also one of those movies where everybody who's from the city, they're clever and they hustle, but everybody from a small town, well, they're idiots and rubes
Mhm.
and too trustworthy. And it's like that. Have you been in a small town, dude? When's the last time you were in a small town? Because that is not the way that goes.
It all depends. There's, you just, it depends. There's so many factors. As a small town person, let me tell you, there's a lot of things that can come into play.
Of course, I mean, you're going to get everybody because that's true in cities. It's true in small towns. It's the way it is. The only difference really between somebody who lives in the city and somebody who lives in a small town is the kind of drug addict that you have to deal with. You have to deal with a hell of a lot more meth from a small town. You have to deal with a lot more like designer drugs in the city. That's the only real difference.
We're all just trying to stay up and find something to do, though.
One of the things that recommends this movie, though, Nicolas Cage just smoking wherever.
Oh my Lord, what a time. We are lighting up
bank
everywhere.
That dude, there's never a bad time to not smoke. And it was like, oh my God, I totally forget that this is the way life was.
Restaurants, it doesn't matter. Like I don't like almost, I'm not sure, but maybe in church. It's close. If it's not, he's on church grounds. It's something he's smoking everywhere, and it's hilarious. You're just like, wow. And no one, and worse than that, no one bats an eye. No one is like, excuse me, sir. Not a once did anybody say, sir, could you please put that out? Not even like just to put him down. It was just like, nope. I guess Nick Cage, and this is what I think. Nick Cage just wanted to smoke a whole bunch during the film, and
yes, of course,
he's just allowed to smoke. Because what's his nut clearly didn't give a shit, so he's just like let him do what he's gonna do.
And here's another nitpick for me is, how do you land on the Firpo brothers? The name the Firpo brothers.
Oh, this okay. This feels like because it is a writer thing, so I wonder that's because I wanted to blame it on the actors here, but I don't know that we can do that because I feel like that if they change stuff around, somebody's like, oh, you get into some WGA problem or something like that. I don't know. So like
you know what it feels like to me? It feels like it is a placeholder that Gallo put into the script. Like, you know what, these guys are a bunch of Firpos or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just never replaced.
And eventually it becomes like, you know what, that ring starts sounding pretty good.
Right.
And it's like, but no one has the heart to be like, yeah, it's kind of shit though.
Right. It's a terrible, terrible name for your main characters in your movie. Also, everything in this movie is ugly. Everywhere you turn, everything in this movie is ugly. It starts in a subway, and it's disgusting in there because it's like the early 90s in New York. Where
we hadn't been cleaned up just yet. we're like 3 or 4 years away from that. So hold on.
Right. And then you go to mom's house. That's awful. You go to the small town. That's awful. And I think that's one of the issues that I have with this movie is that like you could totally have had this like really great, like this really great juxtaposition in your movie where everything that's in the city is gross and fast and like, like it feels like everything's out to get you. And then you go to this small, quaint town, almost like it feels like a Hallmark movie town,
It should look like the town.
Beautiful.
It should look like Punxsutawney and Groundhog Day.
Yes, it absolutely should feel like that. And I know that they were having some problems with this movie because they shot it in Canada and the snow kept melting. And so they had to keep bringing in fake snow. And at certain points in this movie, it looks like fake snow. And there's other times where you're like, you guys just didn't have enough coverage for this because like it's like dirty, disgusting, muddy everywhere. And until that final scene in the movie where he's like, he's holding hand in hand with the most 90s hot looking girl ever,
Got my vote.
And mine too. We have not seen 90s hot like that in a long time.
It's like, oh, whoa, yeah, that's what we used to do right there.
That's right. All she's missing is some Doc Martens, and she would have fit right in with me. But everything is gross. Everything is disgusting all the time. And if you really want the pull of being in this town of Paradise, Pennsylvania, make it look really great to be there, and they just don't do it.
Yeah, have it live up to the name instead of looking like, Biff's Palace from Back to the Future 2.
Exactly.
It's like, could look a little bit nicer. And there's there's a lot of meanies in this town. There's a lot of little bastards going around like the deputies or whatever and stuff. So it's like not everybody in this town's a real gem. I'll tell you that much.
It's true. Although for the most part, everybody is too trustworthy and dumb, which just drove me nuts. Another thing that makes me crazy in this movie is Nicolas Cage's character is behaving like he knows he's in a comedy. Like he's delivering lines like he knows he's in a comedy instead of trying to play it real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mistake, man. And he is, I understand because he's standing next to Carvey and Lovitz that like, oh, I should probably try to ham it up.
Yeah, because like, let's be honest though, like I could see that being him if he's on set and stuff. And these guys are, are kind of big. They're broad and stuff like that. They're doing very interesting and weird stuff, especially like Carvey. Carvey's going off the deep end over here. So it's just like, are you going to be the guy who sinks into the background here while Carvey dances around and makes you look the fool? No. You're gonna dial your game up a little bit here because I feel like Nick Cage is a competitive guy for sure.
Oh, without a doubt, man. You don't get to where you are in Nicolas Cage's stature from just being like rolling with the punches.
Yeah, I'll just do whatever. No, that guy wanted to control everything all the time. And like, I feel like he got his chance with this. But what I do love, there are moments in here where I'm like, Nick Cage is making choices. They let the camera keep rolling. And like the one, and it's in the trailer, one of the more obvious ones where it's happening is where Nick Cage is like delivering a line and he's every single syllable's pointing his finger right at Lovitz. And then Lovitz does that shit right back at him. And I'm like, no, that is so good.
Yeah.
I'm just like, Lovitz is just like, I'm going to show this. I'm mocking him right back to his face in the middle of this scene. And like, Nick Cage, I don't know. I'd love to have been around on the set when this whole thing was going down. Because I think, I could be wrong. My guess is all three of these guys would be telling different stories about the exact same thing.
You mean the characters or the actors?
No, the actors. If the actors were to come back and like, tell us, what were your experiences, in XYZ scene.
I got some news for you there because I watched an interview with Lovitz on Kevin
Pollak. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that. Yeah.
Where he says just how awful the experience was working on Trapped in Paradise, where the three main actors called it trapped in bullshit. And they and for years Lovitz and Cage were friends. Like they would like even go so far as to like hang out together. And there was one Oscar party where Lovitz comes to the party with his Trapped in Paradise t-shirt, and Cage is like, no, you are not wearing that at this party. Absolutely not. So it feels like everybody had a pretty...
Should I take off my shirt instead? Okay, that's fine. Just remember, you asked for it.
Yes. I think that he's I think that everybody had a really hard time on this movie.
I'll say this though. I'm sure it wasn't fun having to deal with the situation and stuff, but you can argue the quality, but I feel like for the most part, these guys seem like they're at least having a good time doing whatever it is that they're doing. You can argue the merits of that, but it felt like they were more or less having fun.
I think that Lovitz and Cage got along because you don't hang out with somebody after an experience like that unless you like that person.
Yeah, you bonded at some point, yeah.
And I don't think that Carvey hangs out with anybody. I think that he never has. And so that's probably why you don't hear from him about this movie.
Yeah. The only person I think he talks to on a regular basis is David Spade, oddly enough.
It's Spade.
Yeah, so
it's Spade and Kevin Nealon are basically the two people he hangs out with.
All right, at least those people seem to be at a point in their life where they're pretty stable. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's true.
At least he's not hanging out with wackos. So
yeah, it's true.
Keep him in the stratosphere.
I've got a bunch more notes, but I have to mention this note, which is there is a huge script failure in this, which is that Nicolas Cage's character doesn't rob the bank because he has to. He robs it because he finds out that it's easy to rob. That's your main character of a movie where your character is teetering on the raggedy edge of whether or not he should be a good person or not. That is a massive script failure.
And all it took was the idea of $250,000 or whatever it was, about that much, maybe 270. We'll call it 250. But that much money and like literally 5 seconds of thinking, and it was like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw like it doesn't warrant it again. But we're also moving so fast at this point. We're still at the fast point, and then all of a sudden once we literally start robbing the bank, which is the most hilarious thing of everything, that's when the movie slows down. When you get to the action point, the crux of the film, the robbing of said bank, that's when the movie goes, hey man, why don't you just chill out for a little bit right here? We're going to slow this movie down to a bit of a crawl. You know what? Let's go across the street and talk to these people at the diner.
The only thing that saves the pacing during after the bank robbery is when Richard Jenkins shows up. Because when Richard Jenkins shows up, he's like, it's like, oh, thank God there's a normal actor with a normal performance we're about to see in this movie. and finally we get it with him. And it was like a soothing balm when he showed up in this. And I was like, oh, at least the Richard Jenkins scenes are going to be normal.
He shows up. It's a weird thing though, because I'm not sure why that character ends up showing up. It's like this small town bank gets robbed for a $250,000, and all of a sudden the FBI shows up, or whomever this guy is, and he comes in with ass crack whipping just everywhere left and right, like it's Die Hard. He comes in like, hey, I'm running this ship right now. This is Die Hard for sure. This whole thing's like, I'm running this ship. But the best part is like, we'll cut back. Then even the movie's so damn bored of him, we cut back and Richard Jenkins is taking a nap with his hat on his face in a school gym. I'm like, even he's bored in this movie.
Yeah,
they got to wake him up and be like, oh yeah, by the way, they're back at the bank again.
It's Meander the movie for sure.
Mm-hmm. Hey, let's walk around for a bit and see what happens.
My last note that I have on this movie is that the only funny line in this entire movie to me, the one that made me laugh out loud, is said by Richard Jenkins, and it's when at the end of the movie, they're at the guy who owns the bank's house. And the three-legged dog walks by, and Jenkins turns to his fellow FBI man, and he goes, "That wasn't us, was it?" Actually, his exact. I have it down. We didn't do that, did we? Absolute killer. I laughed out loud.
I laughed at enough dumb stuff in this, but because it was dumb. Again, right. just someone calling John Lovitz on his shit and him just, and smiling in that stupid John Lovitz way. I will still always like that for some reason. I wrote this down in my notes here. I don't care how you slice it. The scene with the horse sinking had to be difficult to shoot.
There's no way it wasn't, man. There's no way it wasn't.
God, it looks like a mess.
You know how hard it is to make a horse like go backwards to water? It's insanely hard.
I'm like, it is one of those, it looks like it was just so hard that you start asking yourself, why did you even keep this in? I mean, you kept it in because it took so much fucking work to do, but like you should not have done it because it doesn't lend anything. This isn't your Artex moment, That's the worst part is not only does this horse live, you ride his ass around for another 45 minutes.
It's true. It is true.
It's like this poor guy is almost dying, and then you're just like, hey, listen, we'll let you go eventually, but we gotta get this money to the church. Wild.
I'm wondering, because it is so difficult to get a horse to walk backwards into water. It literally is. Like,
I mean, they say you can't even lead a horse to water, much less make them go backwards. So if you can't do the forward, how do you think you do them backward?
I'm thinking that they probably hooked up because it is 94. I don't know if the Animal Regulation Act is. It's got to be at this point. It's 94. I mean,
yeah.
But
after Ace Ventura, they wouldn't let anybody new.
They had to have a cable hooked up to the sled. Sled is hooked up to horse. Pull cable. Sled goes backwards. Horse starts having to go backwards.
And then you just look at everybody going, "We didn't know that was going to happen, huh?" Deep down, they knew it was going to happen. You just have to pretend like you didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I also wrote down, of all movies, this movie is ADR City.
Yes.
Yes. And here's that all said, it's pretty good.
It's okay.
But I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why though. Because they're actually acting in this stuff, like Nick Cage's ADR and stuff. Good or bad, they're adding in a whole bunch of jokes and stuff like that, and but it feels like they're actually acting and not just saying lines and stuff like that. So that's what I feel like. At least those ADR performances are pretty darn good as far as that goes, because those can be horrible. You
say all this, and it's like you never even watched any of the scenes where Dana Carvey is driving the sled, because the ADR for all the sled stuff is the worst.
I'm not saying it's all gold, but like, but there's moments like where there's like a lot of heavy snow and stuff, and people are like saying like actual honest to God dramatic lines and stuff, and they're coming off pretty well, shockingly so. And a lot of times, especially if you got to go back in, and I don't know why, but I feel like Nick Cage would be a pain in the ass at ADR. But
without a doubt.
But he seems to be actually like really going in and acting and giving a shot, because I'm like, I feel like, I know better, but I think your average person would watch this and just think it's coming out of his face at the time. It's not bad.
I think that they probably put the fear of the Lord into him, which is why he is acting during that ADR stuff, because you're not getting Nicolas Cage to perform like that during ADR later in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're post 95. He's got another year, and then like I think Nick Cage is just going to do what Nick Cage want to do after that point. Every now and then you'll probably find somebody that can almost accidentally rein him into the point where it's just like, hey, you can say like you're Raising Arizona, as we spoke like, that's early in their career, but like it gets to that point where you're just like, listen, I can kind of override you because I'm that guy. But he doesn't even have much of that power much after that, because he can just do that with just about anybody. And if they don't want him, they're just going to kick him off there. Because like, look at what he's doing in Snake Eyes, for Christ's sakes. Yeah. Brian De Palma didn't write all of that. He probably wrote a lot of the cocaine stuff. But like, the person who brought the cocaine to life was Nick Cage. And like, there's so much in that movie where he's screaming and yelling that are just plain ass Nick Cageisms and stuff like that. So
I literally cannot remember anything about that movie.
It is, listen, it's Brian De Palma, and I say that because like it's just oozing it from like every bit of its pore. Mm-hmm. And I love it. I think I feel like they're bringing out a special edition of that. I think that they need to. They've been working on something, because I got the Blu-ray. It's fine, but it's one of those that you look at and you're like, this could look really good. But that's one of my favorite kind of Nick Cage performances and stuff like that, because, and again, it's De Palma in that 90s era, which I kind of dig that as well.
Mission Impossible, De Palma. Good De Palma.
It's amazingly so. Like, I mean, I really, up until Femme Fatale was really the last like real like ultra De Palma movie that like I remember loving, that he's kind of done. That was just like one that's like, wow, man, he took his 70s stuff and like you put it in the early 2000s. Like, holy shit, I can't believe you did that. And where's that guy again? Bring him back. You only got one or two more of him in there, So let's do this. Is Nick Cage doing it in this movie?
No, not at all. Nick Cage is completely wrong for this part, unless that's the style of movie you're going to make. But if you're making that movie, then you don't bring in Lovitz and Carvey to flank him on either side.
Or if you do, you have the ability to rein them in and bring them to the appropriate level for that. But that is obviously not what was going down here.
You need the brothers to be like, if he's the good brother, then there needs to be a little bit of menace to the bad brothers. And there is nothing menacing in any way about Lovitz and Carvey. If you're
that would be fun
if
they kind of turned it a little bit and everything, or either one or both of them can have those moments, like, because if Dana Carvey's character, who's kind of just that more light, sweet, sort of innocent, maybe a little bit, the lights aren't quite all on and everything. But if he had like a moment of all of a sudden where he just was like, listen, if you don't, like get just real serious or something like that, that would bring another dimension to it. Or even Lovitz, who like, I play and I play and I play, but like if you push me long enough, I'm going to snap Pesci style. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Carvey could have even given like, listen, okay, you can do the Mickey Rourke thing, but basically what we need is you need to have those butthead moments of clarity. Where like Butthead, he always talks like this, but then every so often he has those moments of clarity where he goes like, he says things like, this sucks more than anything else has ever sucked before.
Yeah.
Like that's what Carvey's character could have done. And it would have made that character funnier instead of doing the exact same thing for 27 hours.
Yeah, or dial it back and have like little bits and stuff, and then have spurts of that kind of of the character that we got here, little tiny spurts of that, but wrapped up in somebody who's a little bit more kind of put together and shelled himself out, shelled himself against everything, which you would think that character would be more like, and then prone to those little outbursts and stuff. And like you said, good at actually going through and pickpocketing. It's not, he's a kleptomaniac, but he's fucking good at it. That's the point of it.
Right. Like, let's see some process too. Like those guys would have processes, but you don't see any of that.
And I like the idea though, that like, it's a good one that they kind of are doing this to conspire to get him to do this sort of thing. But like at the end of the day, you don't believe that those two guys are smart enough to pull that off. Now you could convince us that those two guys are smart enough to have put that kind of scheme together and stuff, and it kind of falls apart a little bit, maybe. But like that's not what we're being sold.
No, not at all.
Now, if you had to recast this role, this is the toughest part, because like I've been scratching my noggin on this one for a bit. I had a weird one. It would change it all, and I don't think he could be as like menacing or whatever. But like, I don't know why I think my brain just lost it. Jesus.
Wow.
John Ritter. That's what it is. John Ritter.
John Ritter.
I don't know.
He's too likable.
That's the only thing that I could think of. But like Ritter every now and then could do a little nasty if you needed him to. Not a ton, but again, I think it changes the character a little bit. But like at least you'd have, if you made it more towards the comedy sort of thing, and he was more of that straight brother that they were kind of trying to bring back in a little bit and played a little bit more towards that angle, and he's more reluctant to do all of this, but he needs to do it on account of mom or some shit like that. Just an idea.
No, it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad.
We're rewriting more than the director did, so
or like, I mean, shit. It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be a man. Like if you had like Jan Hooks as the brother or as the sister who's trying to go straight.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would work better.
It would be an interesting thing. It would bring something different, and then you could have like the local kind of guy at the bank and everything, which would make a little bit more sense and would be a lot easier because guys are dumb and will fall for ladies much easier than girls will just kind of go like, "Hey, weren't you that guy that just sold $250,000, but you gave it back? I guess you're A-okay with me, smooch, smooch, smooch." No,
right.
Not how that works.
Because, the only other person that really you would cast from that era of Saturday Night Live, God forbid, is Dennis Miller. And Dennis Miller can't act. So I don't know.
I did think about that, and I'll tell you why I thought about that. And because And I did toy with that idea. I ultimately didn't write it down or anything, but I thought about that a little bit because I just saw Dennis Leary in Demolition Man, where he's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good in it. And they didn't have a lot to do, mind you, and that's probably why he's pretty good at it. They're like, listen, we're going to keep you for this much, and that's about it. But like, I could see that. If you could rein him in enough with this, and I think that his kind of blow-uppy kind of nature and everything would play enough well off of Lovitz and Carvey, and he's big enough within that to, I think that he could contend with those two guys, whereas somebody like Nick Cage feels like he needs to turn it up. But I don't think Leary would have to turn it up too much. He would easily be able to kind of bat with those guys, and it would be more believable, and he seems more, scummy and bummy than
he
Cage.
He does, but the problem with bringing in Leary is that Leary, and when he's on, he can act. He's an actual actor.
Yeah.
Like I would say to you, he's a better actor than he is a comedian.
Oh, I would certainly agree with that.
And I think that it's the same problem. You're running into the same problem by bringing him in because he's not like a cartoon like Lovitz and Carvey are. He's more like based in reality.
But he could be he could be that reality reactionary to those things.
He could.
That's how I see it. It's like he's constantly like, he's maybe not so much of a do-gooder, but he's definitely trying to get off of that kind of path there and everything, and is mad because these jokers who suck at it, and that's what he's almost more mad at it. That's what brings him in. He's mad because they're not even good at it, right?
Jesus, and so it should be Spade. I don't know why I didn't think of this before. Spade should be the third brother. It should be Spade.
Again, you got we had to. The problem is you got to take the Nick Cage out of your brain to kind of go, who do we put that spot in? And because you're not replacing Nick Cage with just a normal person. That's a weird thing to do, and because he's a very singular kind of cat. But yeah, it's a different movie. It's not the same character and everything, but at least he would be able to play, and you could have him as a straight man who gets wildly, riled by the two of these dudes and everything. Yeah, it's a funnier movie there. And then he has to have that, kind of heart change or whatever. Who, now, and I'm sure he would like that casting of the lady that we got for In the Bank and everything.
Of course. Are you kidding me? There's no way he wouldn't mac on that girl.
Get that man a full apple box. He got to kiss that lady in the scene. All right, let's get down to it. Art or fart? I think we know where we're landing with you.
Fart.
I'm going just slight art, just ever so slight. It is far too long, but I had enough fun with it. Maybe it's just the fact that like I said, I'd seen the trailer 8 billion times growing up as a kid. I felt like I'd seen this movie. Nicolas Cage just going, "I'm robbing a bank," while he's in the deli there or whatever. It's fun. It's fun enough for what it is. Will it make a regular yearly Christmas rotation? Unlikely, but maybe every couple of years. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
I don't believe.
What are you talking about? I've been nothing if stalwart and truthful on this show for well over a decade, and I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and have you say otherwise.
You're the John Lovitz of the three of us. I'll tell you that right now.
You know what? I've seen it 5 times this week. That is it, everybody. Next week, we got one more week in December here, but Christmas is already gone, and we figure, hey, you're probably not going to want to see another Christmas movie. That's going to drag everybody's down. So we need to go for New Year's Eve, and this is one that I have always wanted. When I was running the movie theater, I wanted them to do this as a kind of screening and have everything line up to when it hits midnight at the movie. In real life, is it hits midnight in the movie, because they have that countdown 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year, and I wanted time that to have it happen on the actual New Year there. It would have been a great idea, but none of these assholes have any vision. So
who would go to it though?
People listen. The Alamo Drafthouse did crap like this for years, and
really?
Very well attended. Like if you put together stuff, people will do it. It's just
nice,
nice. But not if they're run by corporate entities who just don't give a damn about anything.
Very true.
So we didn't have all of that. But next year we're going to be talking about the Poseidon Adventure, because that's listen. We need to praise Gene Hackman while he's here. He's not doing any other movies and stuff, but we need to, while the man is still kicking around for his life, he just celebrated a birthday too. We need to celebrate him while we can here and everything. So we're going to talk about him and, of course, Shelley Winter and all the other fine. Listen, you want some, is it Red Buttons or Red Skelton? I forget which one.
It's Red Skelton that's in that.
There were way too many Reds back in the day. Then we got Red Fox. Too many Reds. Stop with the Reds. That was the communist thing too, right? Stop with the Reds.
Yeah.
We tried to stop them all around the board here. So we'll be covering the original Poseidon Adventure next week. I love this movie. I'm so excited to talk about it. Sean, where can we find more of our work on the internet?
Just go to YouTube, check out HMP, and you will find all of the videos that Adam is making, plus this show. You can listen to it there. You're probably listening to it right now, though, so you already know these things. Check that out.
Tickle that like button there, share it with friends and all that kind of good stuff. And we want to appreciate and thank all of you guys that have been liking all the videos and stuff. It really makes me happy, and I appreciate that so much. Check us out next week when we're talking the Poseidon Adventure for Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet. The absent Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porter, reminding you that the only difference between art and fart is an F.